Top Democrats on Capitol Hill, joined by a small number of Republicans, watched with dismay as the United States carried out a major military strike against Iran. Lawmakers from both parties condemned President Donald Trump's decision to call for the overthrow of a foreign government without first obtaining authorization from the U.S. Congress. The strike on Tehran came just days before the Republican-led House of Representatives and Senate were scheduled to formally debate and vote on potential U.S. military action against Iran. Democrats, along with at least 3 Republicans, argued that the timing of the president's decision, taken while many lawmakers were out of Washington, raised serious legal questions about the operation. Democratic Representative Ro Khanna described the move as an insult to Congress. In response, Democratic leaders in both chambers, alongside prominent anti-interventionist Republican Representative Thomas Massie, called on Republican leadership to immediately reconvene Congress for a formal vote on the Iran conflict. The midweek vote that had already been scheduled requiring congressional approval for military action against Iran was widely viewed as a significant loyalty test for members of the Republican Party's right wing. For years, that faction had backed Trump's pledge to keep the United States out of foreign conflicts. Critics now argued that the president's latest action represented an expansion of executive authority abroad without legislative approval. Multiple Republican sources told CNN that outspoken critics within the party, Massie, Paul, and Representative Warren Davidson, were likely to find themselves politically isolated. Even so, Democrats believed the pushback could carry symbolic weight. Khanna suggested the vote had a real chance of passing and compared it to the 2002 congressional vote authorizing the invasion of Iraq. However, even if approved, the measure would face the possibility of a presidential veto. Securing the 2/3 majority required to override such a veto would be extremely difficult. As a result, observers suggested the vote would likely serve more as a political rebuke than as a binding constraint on presidential war powers. A Republican lawmaker speaking anonymously to CNN rejected comparisons to the Iraq War and denied that Trump was dragging the United States into a prolonged new conflict. He insisted there was broad support within the party for the president's actions. Indeed, dozens of Republicans quickly expressed approval, including House Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune. Nonetheless, cracks within the party were beginning to surface. Davidson indicated he would support Democratic legislation requiring Trump to formally justify any military action against Iran before Congress. The strike also intensified long-standing frustrations among lawmakers over what they described as the White House's failure to adequately brief Congress on sensitive foreign policy matters, including operations involving Iran and Venezuela. To date, Congress had not received a comprehensive briefing on the Iran operation, although Senator Marco Rubio and CIA Director John Ratcliffe delivered a classified update to the Gang of 8 earlier in the week. Lawmakers said they had not been fully informed about the legal justification for the strike. Behind the scenes, Democratic leaders quietly coordinated with Massie to gather support for a formal rebuke of the administration. However, as with previous attempts to limit the Trump White House, they faced obstacles. At least 3 pro-Israel Democrats were reportedly unwilling to back the measure. Senator Thom Tillis, who is retiring from North Carolina, stated that while he believed Trump was correct in concluding that Iran's theocratic leadership could not be tolerated, he still demanded transparency. Meanwhile, Republican Representative Don Bacon had previously called for further dialogue with the White House, noting what he described as Trump's shift in emphasis from regime change to addressing Iran's nuclear program.